If I'm being optimistic, I'll probably say 5 years. So 5 to 10 years.
That'd be crazy. One
It's
whole
happening.
Bitcoin equaling $1 million. So that would be crazy.
It is happening. Yeah.
Today, I sit down with crypto insider and CEO of one of the fastest growing crypto exchanges on earth, Bitget's Gracy Chen,
So back to your question, where we are right now,
about what's next for Bitcoin.
the people who decide Bitcoin's price is not, miners and exchanges and all those big VCs and big wells anymore. It's becoming,
As Gracy shares some inside information that the public, you, me, typically don't get to hear.
so it's basically, I don't know if we want to tell the public this.
Also, what's next for Ethereum?
So I chatted with a friend of mine who is a very big well in Ethereum.
And watch today's whole video as I ask Gracy the tough questions. What's your strategy for taking profits in this altcoin season? I'm looking for the next Solana. If crypto were a video game, what would be the next boss level challenge that we face in the next few years? Such a great conversation. Click the like button right now to support me. And let's start, Gracy, with your background. How did you find crypto?
Sure, yeah. So I started to know Bitcoin in 2014, 15 when I was in Beijing. I wasn't in crypto space in general, but I was working at startup and entrepreneurship, like tech area in general. And at that time, I had two friends in Beijing who are like gurus now. So they brought me to crypto. Yeah. They
And when
asked
you,
me to check out Bitcoin basically.
and when you heard about Bitcoin, you got it immediately or it took you a while?
It took me a little bit time, but I did read the Bitcoin white paper. And I studied applied mathematics back in my university, in my bachelor's degree in Singapore, and I was a fresh graduate at that time. Because of the mathematical beauty that I saw in Bitcoin, that really got me very interested. And I immediately bought three cryptocurrencies: Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. I'm glad that they all survived today, and they are all doing pretty well today.
And really, it's thriving in 2025, Bitcoin thriving specifically. What is your general outlook for Bitcoin in 2025?
I'm very positive. I'm definitely very bullish on Bitcoin and Ethereum and a lot of altcoins there. So for Bitcoin itself, if you look at end of 24, majorly the U.S. president is backing the Bitcoin and crypto in general. So it's becoming very crypto friendly. And that kind of cleared all the hurdles and barriers for new adoptions, for mass adoptions, and for the industry leaders to continue, working on different innovations in it. I think that's very, very key. Another thing that we're looking at is also M2 supply. As we know, Bitcoin's price and crypto price in general is highly related to more, M2 supply and quantitative easing, monetary and fiscal policies over there. I think we are seeing the US getting closer to interest rate cut. And not just the US, but Europe, China, they are all looking at various ways to increase their M2 supply. And that will definitely drive risky assets in general, including equity, etc. But I think cryptocurrency is more and more like a US risky asset. So more and more correlated to, for example, Magic 7 in the US, the seven biggest tech stocks. So given that, macro economies change in terms of interest rate, in terms of quantitative easing, as well as more regulatory framework and the very crypto-friendly president coming up in the US. I think these are the two factors driving Bitcoin's price up this year.
And Gracie, do you love being a CEO? You're CEO of Bitget, and I'm sure you get the back end data. How is that?
Uh, do I enjoy being CEO?
Do you love it?
I love it. I love lots of things that I do. I love skydiving. I love even babysitting my kid. In terms of being a CEO, I know it's not easy. We have 1,800 employees around the world. So I travel a lot to meet our partners, to meet our internal team, to meet compliance like regulators. That's probably the part that I became very homesick. But in general, I think we are in this industry that is very, very exciting because we needed to learn new things every day. There are exciting news coming up nearly, every day. And I'm very glad to be at this position to drive lots of innovations. For example, we launched USD D1 a few weeks ago when we were in Vegas. And I have two big partnerships launching actually next week, but when this broadcast is out, it should be announced already. So one with UNICEF, one with MotoGP, which is the moto version of F1. So these are some of the mass adoption activities that we are driving. And yes, I love my job.
I love that Bitget, obviously, equality exchange, and you're the person to talk to with this next question. Because everybody does tell me, generally speaking, Bitcoin's headed up due to macro, due to limited supply. But where are we in this bull market? Do we have another 6 months, 12 months, or is this now a 5-year thing?
I actually don't think the industry is that cyclical anymore. We used to have the 4-year cycle a lot, and that kind of matches every time. And since this cycle, because the major inflow come from institutional adoption rather than retail adoption, and the people who decide Bitcoin's price is not, miners and exchanges and all those big VCs and big wells anymore. It's becoming more and more US focused, more and more institutional driven. And that includes a lot more institutions, including, endowment fund, pension fund, and even just general investor, family office in the space that's holding Bitcoin now. And and that's why the price verification and the decision about Bitcoin's price or consensus, the word that we use a lot in crypto space, is not decided by all those other people previously anymore. I think this shift happened in 24 specifically after ETF was approved in the US and after a lot more institutional adoptions coming up. So back to your question, where we are right now, my personal humble opinion is that we are still early and we don't have the cyclical thing in terms of Bitcoin hitting maybe 180, 50K, etc., and then drop down to 1/3 of it. I I think we probably won't see Bitcoin's price lower than, let's say, 60K or 70K anymore. Can it go, back to 75K, which we just saw a few weeks, like 2, 3 months ago? It may, if there's black swan events. But I think, if we look at what happened earlier, 2, 3 months ago, when Bitcoin price had the sharp drop, right? It was mainly due to the trade war between the US and various countries in the world. But I think half years down the street, people are getting used to Donald Trump's way of doing things and thinking already. So his impact is less catastrophic in that sense. And that's why I doubt if he does trade war again, or if he increase all the trade tariff, would that still impact crypto's price that much? I doubt that.
So you're saying
Yeah,
Bitcoin's institutionalized, or being accepted by the institutions. So no bear market like we've seen in the past 15 years. But yes, 25% dips will happen all the way up. Is that fair?
That is mostly fair. The part that I want to clarify is that it doesn't mean there won't be a bear market because, like I said, Bitcoin's price will be highly related to M2 supply. So if M2 supply goes down, I think that's when we see a slightly, more bearish market. But if the macroeconomics, is working towards where we are now or where, interest rate cut and everything is like heading to, I don't think we will have a strong bear market. Maybe, like you said, 25% dip, but not like a 1/3 kind of price that is like a huge cut.
M2 right now, if the correlation holds, would put Bitcoin over 140,000 around this summer. What's your outlook for Bitcoin just in 2025 into 2026? We passed 140. What's realistic?
I think my guess is about 150K. My high expectation is probably around 180K, lower, 120K, so slightly higher than where we are now. But an average guess would be 150K. But again, I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I do. So those are some of very personal guesses around Bitcoin's price.
Yes, we don't know what the Bitcoin price is going to do tomorrow, let alone 2 months from now. Um, does your bull case, 180, does that factor in the United States buying Bitcoin? Would that change anything for you, or is that baked into the bull case?
I think I factored that in already. By the way, although the US government is not very specific around whether they are purchasing or not and what's the amount that they are purchasing if they are, but the officials made it very clear that Bitcoin is part of the National Strategic Reserve, and there's not only the US but also various states in the US and also some other countries, especially Europe, like Czech Republic or Germany. They are all looking at building that as part of their national reserve. So I actually factored that in already because I think that's already happening. It's just no clear news around the amount and the time.
Gracie, you mentioned earlier that the first three coins you ever purchased back in the day was Bitcoin, XRP, and Ethereum. In 2025 into 26, if you had to choose one or the other, Ethereum or XRP,
Ethereum.
and why?
It's still the second largest cryptocurrency. So I do hold a lot more Bitcoin than Ethereum and a lot more Ethereum than XRP. I think my current holding of XRP is like around zero. Um, so that kind of tells you how I think about the market already, looking at my portfolio.
And I mean, to me, it seems like Ethereum may not have the shine it does anymore. And maybe Solana did well back in 2024, and they'll continue to do well. But what's your outlook for Ethereum in the next few years?
Mhm. So I chatted with a friend of mine who is a very big whale in Ethereum, and he's found an research organization called Trend Research, and his fund is called LD Capital. They are very, very bullish on Ethereum, and a lot of things that I learned from him. So I just repeat his opinion in that sense because I kind of agree. So the reason that Ethereum wasn't performing that well wouldn't be, my expertise to comment. But I'm guessing, Solana is becoming this new trend of blockchain that a lot of people were betting on, especially during the meme coin season for the past few years. And then Ethereum's layer two wasn't hitting people's expectation. And the layer twos are also issuing their own token to be used as gas fees. So Ethereum, ETH wasn't used as much as gas in that sense. So there's like a shift of dynamics around Ethereum and Solana. I even had an interesting conversation hearing, Lily from Solana and Joe Lubin from Consensus, who is a very big backer of Ethereum, right? Like, and there are people debating around whether Solana will flip ETH. I think that's a very interesting conversation. But anyway, back to Ethereum's price. I think what Ili Hua, the guy from LD Capital, shared with me is that he thinks, stable coins will drive lots of adoptions in Ethereum, because until today, USDT, USDC are the major stable coins, and a lot of the transactions are happening on Ethereum blockchain in general. And then again, like the same story as Bitcoin, which is about M2 supply, which is about crypto friendly, is also going to drive Ethereum's price, because that also applies to Ethereum. It's more about people's opinion and people's consensus, again, using that word, in terms of whether they like Ethereum more than Solana or not, and Ethereum versus Bitcoin or not. But in our humble opinion, we think Ethereum still has lots of potential. It hasn't hit its all-time high. The Ethereum BTC exchange rate is also at a very low boundary. And that's why there is potential for it to grow up.
So the biggest demand will come from the stablecoin regulation and adoption globally that we're seeing. If Bitcoin potentially hits $150,000 per coin, where does that put Ethereum?
I think his guess is probably about 4,000. I'm slightly conservative. Let's say 3,500. But again, it's just purely guess.
We can't hit 5K if we get 150,000 Bitcoin?
Let's calculate. Yeah, so if it's about three-fifths of Bitcoin price. So it's if it's like a 50% growth on Bitcoin, whether it should be 100% growth on Ethereum.
That's fair.
Yeah. If that's the mathematics we're doing here, I think it's potentially possible. But I just want to be slightly conservative over everything.
I'm selling at 4,400 after this conversation. Just kidding. Solana versus Ethereum. Honestly, that might be the hottest debate, one of them, in crypto today. What's your take?
Let me find out my notes about the Solana conversation. Actually, let's do it now, because I think they really had very interesting arguments. Hearing from really people who are working on both sides of the blockchain, rather than us commenting.
And who are making these comments that you're looking up?
So it's basically, I don't know if we want to tell the public this. But basically it's a closed door kind of conference that Dragonfly was hosting. So they invited, like I said, Lily, Joe Lubin, and on the other side, it's actually Ansem from the KOL from Ansem or on Ansem.
Ansem.
From the Solana side. And then from the ETH side, it's Max. It's their head of research or something like that from Consensus.
Okay.
So two younger guys debating, two big boss sitting there, and us, a bunch of industrial leaders sitting there and listening. Okay. But basically, well, I actually struggle with this, because after hearing their debate and hearing arguments from both sides, I see the benefits of both, and I haven't decided which one I want to bet on more personally, my portfolio. So I bought both Ethereum and Solana after that, and kind of in similar amount. Whether Solana will flip ETH, so it depends on the definition, right? If the definition is like the total FDV flipping, I think Solana has a long way to go, because if you look at today's price, Solana is probably just what, 1/3 or 1/5 of the market cap. Let's actually double check. Right. Yeah. Market cap. Yeah, it's actually 1/4. So in terms of FDV, it's a very hard competition. But in terms of growth, whether Solana will grow more than Ethereum, looking at today's price, Solana being 144, Ethereum being 100, being 2,500. I think in terms of that, Solana has a pretty high chance. And why is that? Because indeed, Solana is better in terms of the transaction time, all those like
User
blockchain kind
experience.
of user experiences and the adoption around DeFi, around DEX trading, etc. So I think that's one thing. And another thing is their culture. But of course, this is the debate that that was shared by the Solana side, that they think they have a better culture. Their folks are all on chain, and it's not like purely speculation on different layer twos, which in their opinion that Ethereum is doing more. So I guess that's just another way of looking at it. But if you look at the Ethereum side, it's still used as, like we mentioned earlier, stable coin, etc. Ethereum is the to-go chain, although there are some other chains, such as Tron or even Ton, etc., who are enabling lots of stable coins. But Ethereum is the one for institutional adoption. Like all the institutions will ask you to send them USDC or USDT on Ethereum rather than any other chains, because it's considered most compliant and also most secured. And I heard that there are a lot of more collaborations between Ethereum versus some bigger institutions, such as BlackRock. Buildo is offered on almost all chains, including Solana and Ethereum. But I think Ethereum is the largest one from that sense in terms of the adoption and trading volume. Yeah, so all these reasons, factored together, I'm very looking forward to see what both ecosystems are building. Either way, I think both of them should perform pretty well together with Bitcoin. And not to mention, Solana also has this, expectation around having their own ETF, spot ETF in the US. I think that's just another interesting news that we might see coming up. But regardless, like I mentioned, M2 supply goes up, Bitcoin price went up already a little bit, still has very good future, and Ethereum may come next, and Solana may come the third. Well, we end there. I think it depends on how many bubbles do we have at that time, and is there any other further interesting news coming up, or is there any black swan events? But I'll just say these are the three altcoins, including Bitcoin, Bitcoin and two other altcoins that I'm most bullish on.
Gracie, I know you're great at taking profits, reading charts. What's your strategy for taking profits in this altcoin season upcoming, given that the bull run is different this year with institutions?
So we will definitely look at certain price indicators such as 300 days average, whether this for example, my purchase around Ethereum is probably when it goes above the 300-day average, and my selling point is probably around when we see more decrease in M2 supply. Because typically M2 supply and all the crypto, for example, Bitcoin's price, if we don't include everything, let's just talk about M2 supply versus Bitcoin price. They usually have about a 2-month lag, meaning M2 goes up, and after 2 months, roughly, Bitcoin price goes up. And I actually have a historical graph that you can put on the show for everyone to know that info or to look at the chart. But basically, I think right now, M2 supply is a major indicator that we're looking at. Right now, I still see it coming up, going up. Don't see it going down any soon. That's why I'm very bullish about our industry, about our industry.
M2 definitely makes sense. And what'd you say about the 300-day moving average? Why 300-day? Why not 250-day?
It's a general indicator. We use 300-day. Well, why 300 now 250? I guess it means the long term kind of holding price is on an upward trend. But whether it's 300, 250, it's more of like, a number that my technical expert is telling me. So I'll just
Got you,
take it for
got you.
granted because our team is better on that than I do.
Bitget has one of the best teams led by one of the best CEOs. I definitely get it. That's why I appreciate you taking time with us today. Two final questions, Gracie, then I'll let you go. This is you might think this is basic. This is a basic question, but like, and maybe we mentioned a couple already, but what are your top three altcoins in this bull run? And maybe I'm looking for the next Solana.
Yeah, I mean, we listed many tokens already, and for me to say anyone out of the other, it's a little bit unfair and may have conflict of interest as well. But I guess a general way of looking at it is to look at some altcoins that are tied to strong narratives, such as AI, RWA, layer two and Deepin is where I expect money to flow to. And of course, the US related tokens that has a high expectation of ETF approval. I think that's just another one. But to be safe, I'll just say, Ethereum, Solana, and XRP. Although those are boring answers, but I think they all relate to what I mean by strong narrative, US related, has a strong or have already had the ETF approved. And the teams are also building. But if you're looking for the next Solana or even the next Trump, that kind of like on-chain transactions, I'm definitely the wrong person to talk to because I'm too busy running this exchange rather than monitoring on-chain. I actually tried to put either all my money to funds that I know who does, on-chain monitor, etc. better, or purely in those big tokens, majority being Bitcoin.
That's totally fair. As an exchange CEO, I remember CZ wouldn't answer that question either because it would be seen as favoritism. So totally understand. Gracie, what is your hobby? Like, do you play video games, volleyball? What's your hobby?
I told you skydiving and scuba diving already, right? And I just did them in Dubai a few weeks ago when I was having business trip there. So lots of business trip today. I do try to allocate a little bit of personal time so that I can stay fresh and stay connected to myself. So I did scuba diving and skydiving both in Dubai, and it's like great facilities. And I did skydiving before. So those are some extreme sports that I enjoy. If it's more daily life, I like yoga and going to just gym in general. And another thing I love is, like you said, play video game. So my favorite game is Split Fiction. Not sure if you played it. It's a great two players kind of game. So you and your brother can play together. That's just a great
I'll challenge
game
you,
in
Gracie. I'll challenge you.
you
After I
can, and by the way, I cleared this game with all the trophies already. It's like only 3% of the players can do that. So let's do the challenge.
Whoa, I'll play my brother. Um, well, that leads to this final question. If crypto were a video game, what would be the next boss level challenge that we face in the next few years?
Mm, I guess I just thought of two that came up to my mind. Haven't, had enough thoughts around that. But the two that I can think of is number one, after Donald Trump leave the administration, meaning 3.5 years later, would the new administration honor the decisions he made and the current administration is working on? I think this is something that a lot of, especially US-centered industrial leaders are focusing. Bitcoin is part of strategic reserve today. Would that be 4 years down the street? Would the new administration, be so crypto friendly? Same. And also whether, the previous Gary Gensler season may come up again, and a lot of big organizations, especially exchanges, are being chased after. Would that happen again 4 years later? So I think that's one thing. Another one is there are a few organizations in the space that are like too big to fail, especially around exchanges and stablecoin and blockchain, like the public chains. These are three sectors that if one big player fail, just what I mean by that was like if one FTX kind of catastrophe happened again, I think this industry will also be hugely impacted. But let's hope not. And I see almost all the bigger exchanges, at least, trying our best to be more transparent, publish our proof reserve, hold a protection fund against users, etc. Things like that. I think make just people feel more comfortable entering the space. Yeah, but being transparent, being very protective for users is very key.
Well, that's one of the things I love about Bitget. Very transparent on Twitter, on everything. Gracy, thank you so much for joining me today. Links for Bitget for you down below. Final thoughts for the Altcoin Daily Army.
Final thoughts. I enjoy watching Altcoin Daily. I believe your army enjoy watching your videos a lot more too. In general, we need to work together to clear things out and to learn together. So I'll just say, while Bitcoin hits 1 million, we'll see each other again and again in Altcoin Daily.
I love it. And Bitcoin to 1 million by 2035?
If in terms of that, I think definitely in 10 years. But if I'm being optimistic, I'll probably say 5 years. So 5 to 10 years.
That'd be crazy. One whole Bitcoin equaling $1 million. So that would be crazy.
It is happening. Yeah.
But I believe it. Gracy, thank you so much. Links below.